In this video, I will demonstrate how to create an internal schedule and calendar object to control occupancy in an FX PCA controller. I will then show you how to duplicate it in the FX supervisor so it can be viewed and modified there. Now this CAF file, this application file, has an occupied network variable. So we'll go ahead and use that and add an internal schedule so that we can command it to occupied. And if I want to come over here and take a look at the advanced tab, you can see I do have an advanced tab so I can add some advanced features to this controller. However, right now it's not active. To make it active, I have to source this controller as a PCA. This one is now a PCG 2600. So let's go ahead and define the hardware. Select the PCA controller we want to use, which happens to be a PCA 2611. Now we can go ahead and make sure the I/O is correct. And this is going to be a device 4 with an instance number of 2004. And I can go ahead and finish it. Now you can see that it's sourced as a PCA 2611, and if I pull up this advanced tab, I have intrinsic alarming, notification, schedulings, and calendars available. Let's go ahead and add a schedule. So I'll click on schedule, right click on it, and hit add schedule. Now that the schedule's here, we can go ahead and select it and then select edit and change the name. And I'll just call this occupied schedule. And there is an active period for the schedule, and it defaults to any month, any date, so it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week active schedule. There is a schedule type that we can go ahead and change, so we can set it up as a binary, an analog, or a multi-state. And if we do choose an enumerated one, a multi-state, we can go ahead and change the enumeration set to match our occupied enumeration type in our network variable. However, in this case, we can also use another option. And if I just go to down to the schedule, do a drop-down menu, hit scheduled items. I can pull this up so we can see it a little better. Hit the plus. Now it allows me to go select what object needs to be scheduled. And so I'll just go down until I find the network inputs. And I want to go ahead and schedule the present value of the occupied enum. And you can see here a key comes up. Since this is a key item, a network variable, an input or an output, and it was derived from a key object, the state text automatically fills in. So I can go ahead and apply that, and my schedule is now completed, and it will go ahead and use the occupied schedule enumeration set. If I want to go ahead and actually put the start-stop times in the internal schedules, just so there's a default, I can go ahead and hit the plus. And in this case, let's just say I want all days, and I can go ahead and start at a time. So let's say at 8 o'clock p.m. or 6 o'clock p.m., which would be 1800 hours, I want to go to unoccupied. And now every day I went ahead and added an unoccupied point. And I can go ahead again and add another set. In this case, maybe it's just Monday through Friday, and I want this to be Monday through Friday from, say, 7 a.m. and I want to go to occupied. So now Monday through Friday I'll have an occupied point. Maybe Saturday and Sunday I need to just go ahead and adjust this so it's unoccupied all the time. And again, I can go ahead and select the plus and go Monday through Friday from 0 time, unoccupied, and now I have an occupied schedule. And I again can go ahead and apply that. So now let's go ahead and add a calendar, and we'll sit here and add a calendar. And here's a new calendar, and let's edit the calendar. In this case, let's call this calendar, or maybe it's a exception calendar. All right, so now I have an exception calendar, and I can go ahead and add a bunch of dates. So maybe we'll just add one here. So we'll go ahead and go to July 4th and July 5th and save that so that we have an exception calendar. And now I can go back to I need to apply that, go back to the occupied schedule, add an exception schedule, and so I can go ahead and again edit that, hit the plus, and in this case I'm going to do a calendar reference, and we're going to choose that exception calendar we created, and now I can go ahead and add maybe an unoccupied value for every day and apply that, and now my PCA is completed and the schedule is internal to it and can operate as designed. Now we do need to make sure that the time of the PCA gets updated. So let's hit under the Advanced tab, the HP Loop Control, which is the name of this controller. And I'll pull this up and change the default time zone. And this one already is at Eastern, and I'm in Michigan, so we'll go ahead and leave that at Eastern. And down here you can see it is also looking for the supervisor MAC address. And all the FX supervisors, when you add the BACnet, come with the MAC address for the supervisor defaulted at 0. So you can leave that at 0. However, if you went ahead and modified it and made the MAC address 1 or something, you can go ahead and change that in it. Again, I'll hit apply, and I will save it. I already have the hardware on my FX20 here, so I'll hit load, and here's my IP address of my FX20, the UDP port. The network I'm going to load it into is 2001, and I'll go ahead and click next. And here's the loop control, and hit load. Hit next so it loads. Let's finish it up. Now that it's completed, I can go to Workbench and go to the BACnet Device Manager and discover that controller. And here it is. I can go ahead and add that. Everything's fine, so I'll just leave it the way it is. Now that the PCA controller has been added to the network, I can go here or over on the schedules, which is this icon, and I can import that schedule from the PCA into my FX supervisor. Now here's the points. Now if I go ahead and add those, the problem I'll have is they won't be able to be modified from the FX supervisor. There will be just a read-only schedule. So instead of doing that, I'm going to go to my root directory and go to my schedule manager and create a new schedule. In this case, it's going to be an enumeration schedule, and we're just going to call this, let's give it a HP loop schedule, and we'll go ahead and add that. Now I won't do anything with it at this point, and we'll also go ahead and add a new calendar, and in this case let's call it an exception. And add that schedule. So now we have schedules created, both a schedule and an exception calendar created to match the schedules in the PCA controller. Now we can go back down to schedules, and instead of importing them, now we can go to the export manager. Again, we can discover those, select them both, and add them. Now right here you can see the exception calendar has an object ID, and I have an order to look for. So I'm going to go ahead and select using the component chooser and find that schedule or that calendar I created in my supervisor. So here I'll go down to the Explorer, and we'll go find it. They're usually stored under the link folder. I'll select that and click OK. Now I can go ahead and find the schedule since I have the calendar. Again, go to the component chooser under Facilities Explorer, go to the link folder, select the loop schedule, and click OK. Now, both of these have been added to my network, and in this case, I'm going to go ahead and right-click on it and read from the device. And I'll do the same from the calendar. Now, let's go back up to my schedule manager, and let's take a look at the loop controller. And now you can see that the schedule that was in the PCA controller has now been imported into my supervisor. Now the problem is it did not import the correct facets. So I'll go ahead to the properties, come to the facet page. Now I can go ahead and select the correct frozen facet page. However, I know that I've already used this, so I can go ahead now and just choose it in my selected items. And let's go ahead and set the default for this to unoccupied and save it. And now my weekly schedule is modified. So I can go ahead and also copy this day and paste this on Saturday so that I have a little bit of a change schedules. And let's save that. Come back out of there, look at our exception calendar, and let's add a day to it. Here's an event. Let's just go ahead and add a February 20th. Hit OK. So I've got a new date added. We can save that. Now we've got changes in both of our schedules and our calendar. And let's go back down to our loop control, and we'll hit our schedules here and go to the export manager, and we can highlight here and execute that so it goes down into our controller. Execute the other one so it also goes down into our controller. And I do want to show you that we could go ahead and edit these. And in the setup you have the execution time, and we can have this execute to load the PCA with its schedule on an interval, daily, or just manually each time we want to do a download. So back in PCT we can commission this controller and go ahead and take a look at what happened to those schedules that we modified in our FX supervisor. And again, now that we're in it, we'll take a look at our advanced tab, and here's our occupied schedule. And let's just go ahead and take a look again at our 7-day schedule, and there's the days. Let's go to the weekly, and now you can see that that change we made in the FX supervisor has been loaded into our PCA controller. Now this video has been a presentation on how to create internal schedules in our PCA, import them up into the FX supervisor, modify them, and export them back down into the PCA so that they operate as a standalone controller.